Hi, my name is Patrick Reagan. Welcome to the Introduction to Scripting, where we define scripting, the use of scripting, and list and review the more popular scripting languages. For those who are going to take the A+ exam, there are practice questions at the end of the video. If you have not already, subscribe to the Pat Has Your Back channel. Similar to programming, scripting is a way of providing instructions to a computer so that it can tell it what to do and when to do it. A scripting language or script language is a programming language that is used to manipulate, customize, and automate the facilities of an existing system. Scripting languages are usually interpreted at runtime rather than compiled. Interpreted means that each command is executed directly without being compiled into machine language. A script is the instructions, usually in a text file. When scripts are executed, they're executed quickly with no typing or delays and no human errors. Some use cases of scripts are automate tasks, restart machines, remap network drives, install applications, automate backups, gather information, and initiate updates. Some popular computing scripting languages include batch files, Windows PowerShell, Microsoft Visual Basic Scripting Edition, shell scripts, JavaScript, and Python. A batch file is a file with the .bat file extension used with Windows. It's a plain text file that contains various commands used for repetitive tasks or to run groups of commands one after another. To create or modify a batch file, would use a text editor such as Notepad or Notepad++. You can execute a batch file by double-clicking the batch file, execute the name of the file through a command prompt, have a shortcut to a batch file, or use Task Scheduler to schedule the batch file. A batch file usually contains commands just as you would type them in at the command prompt. As you can see on the left are the commands executed at the command prompt. The right shows the actual content of the batch file. The initial C: and CD commands are used to ensure that the user is in the correct folder before executing commands. Some commands in Windows Command Prompt are specifically used in batch files. Call command is to retrieve a batch file inside another batch file. Echo command displays a specified message as well as turning the command prompt off when the batch file executes for a cleaner appearance. Error level command displays where a command was successful or not. 0 means yes, 1 means no. Exit command will close a batch file or command prompt. For command is used to create a loop that is used to repeat commands. Go to command is used to jump to a specific point within a batch file. If command is used to create conditions within the batch file. Pause command is used to stop the executing the batch file and displays the press any key to continue executing the batch file. Rem, short for remarks, is used to comment or document the batch file. Windows PowerShell is a command line interface used mainly by IT professionals to run commandlets, complete background jobs such as processes of programs that run in the background without a user interface, and run scripts to perform administrative tasks. Commandlets follow a verb-noun naming pattern such as get process, get service, get help, set date, or stop process. Common verbs include add a resource to a container or attach an item to another item. Get, retrieve data from a resource. New, create a new resource. Remove, delete a resource from a container. Set, modify a resource such as data or system parameters. Start, begin an operation such as a process or a program. Knowing the legal verbs and remembering the singular noun rule really helps guessing commandlet names. Windows PowerShell includes more than 100 basic core commandlets, and additional commandlets will be added when you install additional software components such as Microsoft Exchange. For example, to get the services on a local or remote computer, you would use get service. To stop a service, you would use the stop service commands such as stop service -name spooler. To start a service, you would use start service, and to restart a service, you would use restart service. To change its properties, as well as start, stop, and suspend a service, you would use the set service command. To set the spooler service to automatically start, you would use set service -name spooler -startup type automatic. To get help on the set service command, you use the get help command such as get help set service. The newest version of PowerShell is PowerShell 7, which is a cross-platform for Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. It's built for heterogeneous environments in the hybrid cloud. PowerShell 7 today is a side-by-side version next to Windows PowerShell 5.1. To learn how to install Windows PowerShell, visit the site shown on the screen. Windows PowerShell can be extended with additional modules and packages from the PowerShell Gallery public repository or other sources. You can use the Install Module commandlet to install modules directly from the PowerShell Gallery. Then you use the commandlets to function and defined in the module just like built-in PowerShell commands. The most commonly used modules include Active Directory, Microsoft Exchange Server, Azure Active Directory, Office 365/M365, SQL Server, SharePoint Server, and Internet Information Services. The second link is a web page that shows how to install all Microsoft 365 PowerShell modules. By default, PowerShell restricts the running of scripts for security reasons. You can check your policy settings by running the Get-ExecutionPolicy command, which will return one of the following. Restricted, no PowerShell scripts may be run, and this is the default setting. All signed, you can run PowerShell scripts signed by a trusted developer. Remote sign, you can run your own scripts or scripts signed by a trusted developer. Unrestricted, you can run any script you want. To change the execution policy, use the Set-ExecutionPolicy command from an administrator Windows PowerShell prompt. PowerShell scripts are text files that have a .ps1 file name extension. You can run a PowerShell script from a command prompt by executing the name of the file preceded with a // if it is in the current folder. //myscript.ps1. If the folder is in a different driver folder, you can start with the //, specify the path, and specify the name of the PowerShell script. //scripts /myscript.ps1, /d:/myscript.ps1. For example, to map a network folder to the X drive, the PowerShell script would contain the following command, which is the same command you would execute at the PowerShell prompt. New SMB mapping -local path x:\remote path // server01 /share1. A Visual Basic Script or VBS file is a text-based script file that contains code written in the VB script language, which is a scripting language developed by Microsoft. VB script is based on the Visual Basic Programming Language and is primarily used for automating tasks and creating simple programs within Windows environments. VBS files typically have a .vbs file extension. VBS files are executed by the Windows Script Host or WSH. WSH provides a runtime environment for executing scripts and provides access to various Windows components and services. cscript.exe is the command line tool provided by Windows for executing scripts written in VBScript, JScript, and other supported scripting languages. While VB scripts are outdated and support has been discontinued, scripts are still used in many places. JavaScript is a versatile programming language primarily used for creating interactive and dynamic content on web pages. Client-side scripting is JavaScript is primarily executed in web browsers, making it a client-side scripting language which runs on client machines or the user's web browser rather than on the web server. Dynamic web pages is JavaScript used to add interactivity, responsiveness, and dynamic behavior to web pages. It allows developers to manipulate the HTML and CSS of the web page in real time enabling features such as form validation, animations, dynamic content updates, and event handling. The file name extension for JavaScript is .js. JavaScript is not to be confused with Java, which is the general-purpose programming language. A shell script is a script written in a shell scripting language that is interpreted by a command line interpreter or shell on Unix-like operating systems such as Linux and Mac OS, or in Windows using software like Cygwin. They're written in a shell scripting language such as Bash, ZSH, KSH, or others, and are executed by the corresponding shell interpreter. Shell scripts automate and extend the command line. Shell scripts often have file extensions indicating the shell language used, such as .sh for bash scripts, .zsh for zsh scripts, and so on. Shell script starts with the shebang or #, exclamation point that indicates the interpreter to use. To use bash, you would use #, exclamation, /bin, /bash. Python is a high-level interpreted programming language known for simplicity and readability. Python is popular in many technologies and has broad appeal and support. Python has several popular frameworks and libraries for various domains including web development, data science, machine learning, web scraping, and GUI development. Python scripts have a .py file extension. At this time, unlike Linux, Windows does not come with a Python interpreter. If you try to run a Python script and don't have a Python interpreter, you may get one of the following messages: invalid environment, or no Python interpreter is selected. Microsoft recommends using Anaconda as a Python interpreter for Windows, especially if you can't decide on one. Anaconda works with Visual Studio. Care must be taken when executing a script, as they can introduce malware. Only execute scripts from a trusted source. Review the content of the scripts before executing. Care must be taken when using scripts to change system settings. When running scripts, a script could add additional load on the computer, which can cause resource problems if too many resources are used at once. Scripts can cause the system or browser to crash. When running scripts, a script could add additional load on the computer, which can cause resource problems if too many resources are used at once. A single character in the script can have unintended consequences. When you deploy scripts, make sure you thoroughly test the scripts before mass or production deployment. Question: what file name extension does a batch file use? Answer: .bat. Question: what is the file name extension used for PowerShell scripts? Answer: .ps1. Question: by default, what is the script type used with the Python language? Answer: .py. Question: you tried to execute the Python script go.py, but you get an invalid environment error message. What is the problem? Answer: the runtime environment is not installed. Question: What is used to run .vbs and .gs scripts? Answer: cscript.exe. Question: what risk do you have if you find a script from a script repository, but you don't understand the scripting language? Choose all that apply. Answer: it could introduce malware. It could use more resources, causing your machine to error. It could reconfigure your system without your knowledge. For more information, visit these sites. In summary, a scripting language or script language is a programming language that is used to manipulate, customize, and automate the facilities of an existing system. A script is instructions, usually in a text file. A batch file is a file with a .bat file extension used with Windows. It's a plain text file that contains various commands used for repetitive tasks or to run groups of commands one after another. Windows PowerShell is a command line interface used mainly by IT professionals to run commandlets so as to complete background jobs such as processes or programs that run in the background without a user interface and run scripts to perform administrative tasks. PowerShell scripts are text files that have a .ps1 file name extension. A Visual Basic Script, or VBS, file is a text-based script file that contains code written in the VB script language, a scripting language developed by Microsoft. JavaScript is a versatile programming language primarily used for creating interactive and dynamic content on web pages. A shell script is a script written in a shell scripting language that is interpreted by a command line interpreter or shell on Unix-like operating systems such as Linux and Mac OS, or on Windows using software like Cygwin. Python is a high-level interpreted programming language known for simplicity and readability. Thank you for watching this video. This completes the scripting series. The next series will be remote access. If you have not already, don't forget to subscribe to the Pat Has Your Back channel. Thank you.